What is up, everybody? It is your boy here, and I'm going to make a bit of a different video today. What was it like growing up as the ugly kid? Because that's what I was 100%. I was 100% the ugly kid. I could put some photos up if you want. I had big head, shaved, always had the scabs on my mouth from licking my lips and all that crap. I always had blood noses. I was like that weird, ugly kid. All I can say is that it was terrible, man. One of the biggest things for me when I was young is I never got any attention from like any girls or anything. And I understand when you're young, that's not really a big thing, but it is when you've got all your other good-looking mates and shit. They got this nice long blonde hair and they're nice and fit. And they're getting all the girls and everything. Even though I'm talking like, when I hit probably 14, I started to get a bit more confidence in myself. But from 10 to 14, that's when it's not the roughest time growing up. I'd say it's probably a bit older, but it still wasn't nice. I had all these nice looking mates, and well, I didn't really have that many friends either. They were sort of just schoolmates. I only seen them at school, and I think they only used to hang out with me because we were at school. And I guess I don't really know. Yeah, I don't know. But it was horrible. They were always, chicks. They were always talking to the girls and everything, and I was always the one that the girls were always sort of like, ew, why would you talk to him? Like I was always that kid that was always the one that was left out. I was always picked last for things. I never had any, not even girlfriends, just friends as girls in school. Like I didn't have my first real girlfriend until, I was still young, I guess, until like 14 or 15. I can't quite remember. But even before that, I was always the one that was always left out in things. I was always the ugly kid. I was always the one that never got the girls' attention, that the girls are always like, ugh, like, yuck. Like, why would anyone talk to him? And like, I guess back then, it probably didn't affect me maybe as much as, oh no, I'd probably say it affected me just as much as probably what it does now, when that's type of stuff. I have a girlfriend now, so it's different. I couldn't really care. Actually, no. It affected me more when I was young because I couldn't really care what people think of me now. Jeez, I couldn't get that one out. I couldn't really care. It doesn't really affect me that much now, but it used to affect me a lot when I was young because I never had that many friends. I was never the popular kid. I was never anything until probably hit about 14, 15, and then I sort of started to get a bit more friends and talk to a bit more people, and I had the odd girlfriend here and there. But before that, it was terrible. Like, I just always felt left out, and I always felt like I couldn't talk to anyone because I was always, as soon as you see me, it was like, yuck, like, no one wanted to hang out. I only had like a couple, like 2 friends during school. One was my cousin, and the other one was a kid that lived across the road. And I never really had that many friends in school just because, I imagine I was a bit of a prick as a kid too, but yeah, just growing up the ugly kid, it sucked, man. Like, lots of kids these days are getting attention from girls, starting from 12. And I'm not talking about anything, sexual, just attention from girls. And I never had that. I never ever had that sort of attention. And it just, as much as I know you were young, you don't need a girlfriend, that's not the point. When you're seeing all your mates and stuff, they're dating girls. And I know dating in school's barely even dating, but it's still, it's rough, when you want to be able to talk to girls, when you want to be able to say hi and then not just curl away in disgust. It's sort of like, it's very rough, and kids can be bloody mean. You don't realize that until you get, until you're out of school a few years and you look back and you go, bloody hell, kids can be terrible things. Like, I've done some terrible things when I was a kid, and I'm sure lots of other people have, but I just know that that's one big thing for me, is that really disgust that others felt for me, especially girls. And it just sucked. I felt that I was still nice and I could still talk to people, and I wasn't a dick or anything, but that didn't seem to make a difference when it came to, you know, the girls and stuff. They were always, I was just always that one that I never ever had a girlfriend in my previous school, or my first school, should I say. I was never the one to get picked for anything. I was always last to get picked. I was always just that kid that nobody really wanted to hang out with, and I think that had a lot to do with, you know, what I look like. I probably look like a, you know, glasses, bald head, scabs around me mouth, lots of blood and noses and shit. Real skinny kid too, so, you know, I didn't have anything going for me. I don't blame the women, I mean, or girls, because they weren't women back then, they were still girls, but, you know, I don't blame them for not wanting to talk to me or anything, because, you know, I was probably, I don't know. I don't really know how the mind works when you're young, because you're sort of all over the place, going through puberty and whatnot, and your emotions all up in the air, and shit always affects you more than what it should, and it was just rough, you know. I wish that kids were a bit nicer. Even now, you know, I wish I could go back, and I wish I could be nicer to not only the teachers, but to other people. You know, just in general, if you are a kid and you're watching this, to try and be nicer, because I guarantee you, when you get older, if you've grown up and matured, you'll look back and go, holy shit, I was a prick. I was not nice, you know. I was just an ass in general. And it's just not right. It's just not good. You know, you shouldn't be like that. But I understand when you're kids, you don't have that sense of caring about how other people feel and how things affect other people. But they do, man. It took a big toll when I was young. You know, that's the main reason why I tended to stay home and play games more. Because I felt that when I went out, I was always like, you know, there was always you had your groups, and I was always the one left out. Unless I push myself into a group, and then it's not sort of the same thing, because you're almost forcing yourself into that group. You're not getting picked voluntarily like all these other groups are. But I was just always that one kid that, you know, I was just always sort of got left out of things. And all the girls back then, that I was that one kid that they were always like, ugh, yuck, you know, how could you even look at that kid without feeling sick? And you know, it doesn't affect me now, but I'd look back and I go, man, it was rough. It was like, you know, as much as you think of kids and you go, oh, they got their life easy, school can be rough. School can be terribly, terribly rough on teenagers, early teenagers, late teenagers, like the whole lot. It can be extremely rough on them, because it's such a brutal time of your life when you're doing, it's a very steep learning curve, school is, you know, and I think it definitely tries to teach you to have a bit, you know, some iron skin. And I think it's a bit worse now with all the internet, because back then I never had Facebook when I was young. I never had social media or anything. I didn't even have a phone until I was like 12 or 13. That's unheard of now. That is like, that's not even a thing. You're virtually handed a phone as soon as you come out the womb these days. Not that bad, but, you know, so it's getting worse. And I do feel for the kids these days, because fuck, it's going to be real. It's just going to get worse and worse with this bullying crap. And kids are getting, I feel that people are just about getting more judgmental. Like, yeah, you know, there's them more open to things like the different sexualities and how people feel about the gender that they are, or, you know, all sorts of stuff like that. But when kids are kids, they are going to be kids, you know, like, it's definitely a rough environment, this school, and it's just getting worse, because people can go home and they can message someone over Facebook and tell them what they would, and say things that they wouldn't say in person, which is really crap. Because, you know, at least when I was young, you know, I'm 24 now, so, you know, when I was 10, 13, 12, you know, until it got to about 16, and then social media really started to pick up hard, you know, it wasn't as easy to go and say things to people, because you had to say them in person to their face. But now it's just getting really, really bad. And I definitely feel for the kids these days, and the kids in the future. It's just going to get worse and worse, and easier to pick on people and bully people and say stuff that you wouldn't normally say because of all this social media and everything. So, you know, I just hope that, you know, kids can no, they're never going to not have that phase, because I think that's just a phase kids go through. But I just think it's easier to stay in that phase these days, because it's not like back in, when I was young, back when my parents were young, it was even different. But even when I was young, if someone said something to you, you had a bit of a tussle in the yard or something, and then that was it. That was the end of it. But now someone can say something to you, go home and pick on you 24/7. And it's just really bad. I'm sorry I've got a bit of a topic here, but I think I prefer to talk about these days rather than back when I was young. Because, I was an ugly kid. I always got picked on. I always got left out and stuff. But that's, when I look back, I'm fine with it now. It's not like I look back with, it's a black spot on my life or anything. It's a part of my life, and that's what it is. But yeah, I'm really scared and worried for the future generations of kids, and even the kids now, because it's so easy to just tell other people to just say things, say mean things to other people, rather than, what it was even 10 years ago. It's so much easier now, so much more accessible, and they're exposed to a hell of a lot more than what we were, or what I was when I was a kid. But different stuff, not then. No one's going to get punched in their head these days, because you just can't do that anymore, which isn't a bad thing. But in my opinion, it was good when I was a kid to be able to have that little tussle in the yard, and then a couple of weeks later you're over it, and you're like, you punch each other in the head and you're done. Whereas these days, I feel that it's just going to keep going, and you're just going to get bullied, and there's going to be the bulliers, and it's easier and easier for them to bully people over social media and everything else, and say stuff to them they wouldn't actually say in person. So I just hope that something can happen, and that maybe, I don't know, social media, I don't know. I actually have no idea how they can tackle something like that. I just hope that it happens less, because it's going to take more of an effect. It's going to affect more and more kids, because more and more kids are going to be able to do it. That's just my opinion, though. I'm sorry this is a long one. I apologise. I hope you're having a good day. I hope you've had a good day. I hope you're going to have a good day. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you all tomorrow.